screen recording. So all we talked about so far was making sure that your shader was updated, your standard stencil filter was updated with the code where at the bottom these two lines are commented out or deleted so that when you select that shader in your materials, various materials, that that you'll have this down at the bottom, you'll have this stencil test and be able to actually change this from equal to not equal. Okay, great. So that's where we are. All right, so like I just said a second ago, we're going to write a script and attach it to the portal window that swaps this over. And like I said earlier, I didn't get a chance to get my notes, so I have to just pull up the script. Let me do that. Let me just open another version again. All right, so let's make a new script and call it, so go in your scripts folder, make a new script and call it portal trigger. Okay. All right, let me grab this really quick so we can go over this. Do we want to code this? I think it would be best for us to code this rather than me just give it to you. So let me actually do something here. So if I make a change to this, hello, and then I go back into my main thing and then open up this script, it'll say, do you want to save changes? And I can say cancel, and then I should be able to have both versions open at the same time. Great. That's because by default it wants to close the scripts that you have open in other projects and leave open the ones that and only show you the ones that you have in the project that you're working on. So, but you can get around that if you just make a little change. It'll prompt you and say, do you want to save this? And then you can hit cancel, and then it won't close it. All right. So what we're going to do is, don't start yet. Let me talk about this. First thing we need to do is make an array of materials so that we can reference that array and change that function in each material. So we have a public. So up here, make a public material. And oh gosh, mine's not. Yeah. There we go. No, why is it not blue? It's not blue. I want it to be blue. Material, open close bracket, and just call this materials. Oh, maybe that's why it wasn't blue. No. Materials, yeah, materials, semicolon. Let me just try this again. If I load it from in here, maybe it'll work. But now okay, great. Do I still have that other one? Yes, good. All right, cool. All right, so we've created an array called materials, right? And then we need to be able to track where the camera is. So we need to make a transform for the camera position. And so let's call that a private, because we aren't going to need to, we don't need to put this in the inspector, and we won't be using it anywhere else. Transform. Why does it stop being blue already? and call this just camera with a lowercase c, and say that this equals camera dot main dot transform. That was the bug that I squashed at the very last second, is that I did have this be public and you would drag the camera in there, but as soon as you made it a prefab, it would lose that information. But as long as you have your AR camera tagged as main and you just reference it this way, it works. Why can't I get this to... Oh, I see. It's telling me which one do I want it attached to. Okay, is that good? I think so. All right, great. Okay, okay, so then we need to create a couple bools, and we're going to track whether we're in front of, whether we're in front of the window, whether we're in the other world, and whether we've collided with the window yet. So let's create these three private bools. Private bool was in front. Private bool in other world. Private, there we go. And private bool has collided. Okay, so we have those three bools, and we're going to be using that to track those conditions, whether we're in front of the window, whether we've already gone through the window and we're in the other world, and whether we've collided with the window yet. Okay, then we're going to create, don't type this yet because we don't have that function. Let's create this function, set materials. So underneath your void start, do a void set, capital S, set materials. And we're going to make this use a bool called full render. So this is, we're going to set the materials, blah, blah, blah. We're going to set the materials, and we're going to use this, either it's going to be full render, meaning they're fully rendered, or it's not, and they're only going to be rendered in the window. Open close bracket, and we need a little var called stencil test equals full render. We're going to use ternary here. I don't know if we've used ternary before. It's a way of doing conditionals, and it's actually kind of really easy to read, and it's a little bit simpler than the way we've been doing it before with if statements. So basically you pose a question. You're saying, does stencil test equal full render? If it does, then do this, compare function. Is that something we don't have yet? Dot not equal, and then it will do whatever is before the colon if it's true, and it'll do whatever's after the colon if it's false. Otherwise, compare. I feel like this is something we haven't written though. Function dot not dot equal. Now, do I have a compare function in here somewhere?
I think you're missing using Unity Engine.
Ah, thank you. So let's add that. Good catch. Using Unity Engine dot rendering. See if that does it.
Can you walk through how the thing you just said worked again? The question mark and the
yeah. So this is called ternary notation. It's another way of doing if-then statements. But instead of having to say if and then with brackets, you just put a question mark after you make a declaration that says stencil test equals full render, and then you put a question mark, which it recognizes as a ternary notation, and then if it's true, then you do what's on the left side of the colon. If it's false, you do what's on the right side of the colon.
So if compare function.
If stencil test equals full render, then set compare function to not equal.
Okay.
Otherwise, set compare function to equal.
Okay.
Compare function, yeah, mine's not turning blue. It turned blue in this one, and this is, it's using Unity Engine rendering compare function, depth or stencil test. Yeah, so yeah, I don't know why this isn't turning blue. Is it not turning blue on yours either? It is blue on yours? Okay, great. It's just because I have two versions open. Then you have an error in yours. Let me see here. Let me try. If it's not turning blue, then you probably have a typo. This is driving me crazy. All right, hold on. I'm going to take a screen capture of this so that I can close it and have only one thing open, and I'll work off of that. Just 1 second. Of course, I can't fit it. And oh, there we go. I can if I do it that way. But I can't while I'm screen recording. So that's a thing. Command Shift 4.
Just highlight what you want to see.
That's new. How do you do that?
No.
Am I still recording? I'm still recording.
It should be on your desktop.
There it is. Hey, look at that. Okay, great. So now let me just save this 1 second and go back into my, just close this and go back into here and open it again, and maybe I'll get blue text now. Compare function, yay, okay, great. I'll zoom in. So I'll look at yours. What's going on? So did you add that using up at the top? Yeah. And what's your compare function isn't working? It's not blue.
It's not blue.
Well, hit,
Not up.
wait, you're in Visual Studio, that's why. No, you should be in Visual Studio. How come you don't have a play? You have a build thing.
Yeah.
Try hitting
Got a
hit the
semicolon
hammer.
that's screwing up your game. No.
Maybe it's just the version that you have of something. Close this and open it again. Save it. Close it.
Oh wait, mine just
And now open it again from in here. Double click on it. You have an error somewhere. Definitely have an error somewhere.
I'll have to fix yours. What to fix yours?
So just double click.
Equal probably needs to be.
Okay, scroll up to the top. You have a problem with that using. Scroll. Go.
Yeah,
No, I
needs to be
can't see the
capitalized.
side.
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
Scroll over.
It's okay. I linked that.
There we go.
Oh, I'm so happy.
Use
But it's still
Unity
fits my
Engine
camera.
dot
So what
rendering.
have I done here?
Why is
Oh,
that not
that's
working?
just being worried about.
But now it's
Just a
blue.
warning.
But now it's blue.
Now it's
All
blue.
right.
This is sort of like.
Okay,
man,
great.
It says I'm not.
Okay.
You're not finding
Oh,
camera
capital
that
N.
I like.
Okay, fair enough. Because it's supposed to be hidden. I should probably say. Does it want me
There
to
you
say transform portal turner document?
Weird.
No, I want you to say.
And now I have the play button on all.
Okay.
And now has a play button? Yeah. Okay, great. Good.
It wants us to say.
Yeah, Unity. Well, I've had this problem, and usually the way you can fix it is save, close, and reopen it, and it'll usually fix that problem. All right, so let me look at my screenshot now. So I'll use that. Okay, great. So where were we? We have. Wait, is this? This is the wrong. I have the wrong one open. This is the full one. I'm in the wrong project. I can close this project now.
Oh no.
Thank you. There we go. Okay, portal trigger. Okay, great. That's where we are. Great. All right. So now we have our var stencil test. That's where we are. Dot equal, and that just has an underline because I haven't put a semicolon. I hope. No, I forgot a capital E. There we go. Okay, so we got that, and then we're going to do a for each.
What's that?
A for each is a loop that will do the same function for each member of an array. So we created this array called materials, and so for each thing in the materials array, do this.
Okay.
So for each var mat. So we create a little variable called mat, and that's a variable inside of the materials array. Open close brace, and we're going to say mat dot capital set int, and then this is what it'll look for. It'll look for something labeled underscore stencil test, which remember is in our inspector. And it will set that int with the int value that we place in stencil test. Okay?
So stencil test int is
We
in the
create
value.
we
Great.
we
Gotcha.
reference stencil test right here.
Gotcha.
And we set that with this ternary, and we're saying do a compare function equal not equal, and if it's full render, then do this. If it's not full render, then do that. We then set, so stencil test gets populated with either compare function not equal or compare function equal. Then we set that stencil test field to that thing. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Next.
Sorry, I have a question.
Yes.
So that thing you did before the stencil test, does that mean the stencil test is either 0 or 1?
Yes. Yeah. And there's only, in that drop-down menu, there's only 2 options. So that's why that works. Okay. Let's see, where are we? Okay, great. Now we need, we have our, okay, so I guess we'll do this private bool. So then we're gonna set a bool with this private bool get is in front, open close parenthesis. Sorry, not a semicolon. Instead, we want braces. So then we need to create whether the camera, we need to figure out whether the camera is in front of the portal window or not. And so we're creating a bool called get is in front, so that we're creating a bool function that will set a bool based on the code that we're going to put in this. Okay, so it's basically like a void function, except for it's not a void. It'll return a void function doesn't return anything. This is like a void function, but it returns a bool, true or false. Okay, so whenever we call get is in front, it will return whether we're in front of or not in front of the window. Okay, so the code for that is basically we're going to create a vector 3 and call this world posts, and that's going to equal camera dot position And camera is in this case referring to this private transform, which is getting the transform of the main camera up here at the top, right? So it gets that position plus, whoops, darn it, come on now. There we go. Camera dot position plus the camera dot forward. So which way is forward? Times the camera dot main dot near clip plane. So there is a simpler way to do this, and in the tutorial that I went through, he started off with a simpler way, and then he graduated to this. And basically what this solves is if you're running too fast toward the portal, you may go through the portal before it triggers, because it triggers physics asynchronously to when it is updating the frames. Frames are not calculated. I mean, physics are not calculated at the same on every single frame. They're somewhat different. And so if you're going too fast, you might not trigger this happening. And so instead of triggering based on the camera's actual position, it's triggering on when the near clip plane of the camera finally passes that window. It also gets rid of a problem that if you're right at the threshold, you can see this blackness where you haven't crossed, the camera's near clip plane hasn't crossed yet. No, the camera has crossed the threshold. Is that it? But the near clip plane is not allowing you to see what's around you. And so it's changing the way it triggers. Instead of triggering on the actual position of the camera, which would be simpler in code, it's triggering on when that near clip plane passes the thing, so that it only triggers when you can actually see the changes being applied.
What's the near clip plane?
So a camera has two clip planes. It has a near and a far clip plane, meaning objects closer to the camera than the near clip plane are not rendered. Objects further away from the far clip plane are not rendered. So I think the default near clip plane is like 0.1. I think you can go down a little bit smaller. You can't take it to 0, I don't think. I'm not sure. My far clip plane was set to 20, but I feel like that was a custom thing. I think maybe the far clip plane is 200 normally. We're gonna change ours anyway, because we're gonna have things that are over 20 meters away in this example if we get. All right, so where are we? Near clip plane, yeah, okay. Then we need to actually have a position vector 3 posts equals transform dot, this is interesting, inverse transform point. And then inside parentheses, world posts. So what the heck is that? What this is going to do is create, instead of using the actual transform of the position of the camera, we're creating a transform position relative to the position of the window. So we can easily do testing, and that window can be anywhere. You can set the window as 10 feet away, and it will still be able to tell you what's my position relative to the window. Am I past this clipping plane or the window's position, or am I on this side? So I can get a positive or negative value based on that. So it resets where 0 is relative to this window. Does that make sense? Inverse transform point of this world posts. Okay, and let's see. Okay, and then we're going to actually, because this is not a void, we need to actually return something. Return posts.z greater than or equal to 0. So that means return the bool true or false based on the whether that inverse transfer point is greater than or equal to 0. So if it's greater than 0, meaning you're on the other side of the wall, then it'll be true. If it's less than 0, it'll be false. So we could probably leave it here. I think this next part in the code is not necessary, but let's just put it in just to be sure. So he formulated this as a ternary and said true, otherwise false. But I'm pretty sure that if you just left it here, it's going to return true or false based on whether that is true or false, right? You don't have to say that return true, otherwise return false, because that's what this logic operator will return, right? I think that's why it's graying these out, because it's saying this is redundant, a redundant conditional expression. Actually, let's just try it. Let's just get rid of it. I'm pretty sure we don't need it. The code, the program is telling us we don't need it. So let's live dangerously. Huh? Sorry. POS. Yeah, sorry. I got ahead of myself. Okay. So does that make sense what that's doing? We're turning true or false whether we're in front of or behind that plane. Now that we have that get is in front bool, we can use it to trigger things. So we need a private void on trigger enter. And the collider other that it gives you by default is fine. That's what we're going to use. And say if other dot transform does not equal camera, then just return. You don't even need braces because we're just putting one line. So what this is doing is because we're going to set up the window with a trigger, and it probably wouldn't matter in ours if we didn't put this in our example if we didn't put this code. But if you were to add some object that's like running around and has its own motion and has its own collider, it might trigger this based on anything triggering it. And so we're saying, okay, wait a second. If it's not the camera, don't do anything, right? Otherwise, then do something. And something that we're going to do is this. So we're going to set this was in front bool that we defined up at the top. So was in front equals, using that get is in front bool function. So we set that with that get is in front bool function. And then we set the bool that has collided equals true. True, there we go. Okay. Now, so that's on trigger enter. So when it first enters, when it first collides, it'll do this. And then we're going to do something on trigger exit as well. Private void on trigger exit. And these on trigger yada yada, those are functions that are built into, you can't see around me? Someone moved the damn projector down again.
Sometimes I can see around you if I move.
I hate this. Why does somebody keep, they like it low? I think it's because whoever else is using this can't get the projection screen to stick at the higher level. And so they keep moving the projector instead. And that's their problem. And now has become my problem.
Yeah, there. Hey, listen.
So we'll keep fighting over the position of the
Just
projection.
like keep a camera in here, just like watch it and see.
It's Daniel Jackson. I'm like,
No,
who
no,
else?
no, no. In Daniel classes, we have to move it too.
Well, put it back.
No, we have to move it up too.
All right, so on trigger exit. Yeah, okay, so we're having an if statement in here. The same kind of if statement. If other dot transform author. I can't type. Author. Gosh darn it. There we go. If other transform does not equal oh my gosh. There we go. Too much coffee, I told you. Where were we? We're on trigger exit. Trigger exit. Okay, so if other dot transform does not equal camera, then return. You notice how I'm not putting the braces? I think I said this a second ago. If you have a single command, if you're not having a group of commands, you don't need braces. You only need braces if you need to set apart a bunch of commands. Return means exit this function and don't do anything.
And then the following command is like else.
So else, yeah, basically. So it's only going to do this if that's true. It's going to return and escape out of the function. Otherwise, then do this. On trigger exit. Okay, so then we're going to just set this has collided. Has collided equals false. Okay. And now we need one more private void. Void while camera colliding, open close parenthesis, open close brace. If not has collided, then return. Otherwise, bool is in front equals get is in front, open close parenthesis. So we're setting we're setting a thing. We're setting a bool that we're using just in this function that we're calling is in front, and we're setting that using the get is in front function that we defined. You still can't see around me?
It's not your fault. It's this room. You're fine.
Should I like duck down? All right.
You should definitely do that. You can definitely teach like that.
I can for about 5 minutes maybe. All right, so we're setting this bool that we're calling is in front by using the get is in front function, and then we're saying if. Okay, so now we're going to use a couple parentheses because we're going to have an or in here. So we're going to say open is in front and was in front, not, whoops, sorry, that should be exclamation point was in front. So if is in front is true and was in front is false, or just two vertical vertical lines, was in front is true and is in front is false. Okay, does that make sense? It's a little funky, but that's how this works. So this is defining moving through this way or moving through this way, but not coming in and going back out. right? So you have to have been is in front and moving through. So you're currently in front of the you weren't in the last frame, you weren't in front of the window. Now you are in front of the window. Or, because we're making this portal work in both directions, you were in front of the window and now you're not in front of the window. Does that make sense? So it's describing through logic of a movement vector, saying I was in front of it and now I'm not, or I wasn't in front of it and now I am. Okay? So if either of those is true, brackets, set this in other world, flip this thing called in other world. So in other world equals not in other world.
It seems like a really complicated way to enact something that's really simple.
It is, but it isn't. Like this is dealing with a few different bugs that are inherent in the system. I mean, I guess I don't understand what you're saying. Do you have an idea of a way it could be simpler?
Well, it's just odd that you need 5 different functions to, I don't know.
Well, you could not. This is fully factored.
Right.
So you could have a for each on each one of these situations that manually sets that, but you still need to be able to tell where you were and where you are and where you are and where you were,
Right.
to be able to determine, to make this portal bi-directional, right? And that's all we're doing. And it seems complicated, but it's actually, when you look at it and you figure out what's going on, it's not that complicated. But the other thing that's complicated is this, figuring out where you are in the world and doing that with this inverse transform so that you can say where you are relative to this window plane that you have to cross, right?
Why does that matter though? Aren't we just turning on a shader?
Because it matters, because we use logic to determine whether we've crossed that plane or not.
Oh.
And so we have to have a value that's either negative or positive of that point, and we don't know where that point's going to be before we place the portal.
Got it.
Okay? So we set this thing saying we're in the other world, and if we were in the other world and now we're in the real world, then we'll flip it, right? And then we need to use our set materials function. Set materials to whichever state we just set. Does that make sense? I saw that.
Yeah.
What doesn't make sense?
So you're setting in underworld, which is a state.
Yeah, this is a state based on the logic that we defined about crossing that plane.
Yes, true or false.
Yeah.
Whether or not we're in the portal
Right.
world
And
or
then we
not.
have that function that actually sets the materials called set materials. And that true or false is used to set those materials to either be visible or be invisible.
I got you. But we're setting in other world to false? To like not in other world?
No, okay, so this is what's confusing you. Okay, so this is a way, and you'll see this a lot, and we've done this before actually. This is a way to flip a variable. You're not explicitly saying true or false, you're just saying set it to opposite of what it currently is.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, it's a little it's a little confusing when you read it, because you're like, what do you mean is another world is equal to not is another world? Right? But it just means that if it's true, now it's false. If it's false, now it's true. Right? Okay. Where were we? We were... Is set materials. Where's my set? Okay. All right. We're almost there. We're at the very bottom. And now we just need to set that was in front to equal is in front. So set your current state you know, for the next frame to what your current state is now. That's all that means.
Wait, can you just say that again?
So this is like on the last frame, this was my state. On this frame, I'm testing against what it was on the last frame. So I do all my logic, and after my logic's done, then I set my current state to whatever the last frame stuff is. So this is doing that. It's setting this as the last frame. And now we just need some really simple stuff. A couple one-liners here. In private void on destroy, this is just going to this is basically like the opposite of void start. This is like void end. So when you go out of, when you hit play on the when you hit play in Unity, it'll do the void on start. When you stop that play, it will do the on destroy. And it's this, we probably wouldn't really need this for our app, but for in the editor, when we're looking at this, we want things to reset back to the way they were when we started. So void, sorry, there we go. Void on destroy. Actually, we could make it a private void. It doesn't really matter though. Private void on destroy. And set materials back to false. Okay, and then we need to actually run this thing that looks for the camera colliding on every single frame so that we have the benefit of it calculating more often than physics normally looks at it. And so we run this while camera colliding void function on update. Okay, so there's that big beast.
Did we do void start?
You should have nothing in your void. Oh, you're right, thank you. Just set materials as false. Yeah, I skipped that because we hadn't defined set materials yet. Okay, y'all with me? Great. Let's see, I
Can you
think...
show me the last part of the what come on.
Okay. All right, so now we have the function that we will attach to the portal. So let's do that. So in your portal prefab here, on the quad, I believe, which is the actual window, add this portal trigger script. What do I have? Script serialization. Get main is not in the something. What? I think it doesn't like the name that I gave it as camera. Does you have the same error in yours?
Yeah.
Let's try change it. Let's see. Get main is not allowed to be called from a mono behavior constructor or instance field. Call it an awake or start instead. All right, let's see. Where is it? Let me have that point at that again. Where is that? Oh, okay. So just say this. Grab this, hit Command X so that you cut it, and then here in, let's add a void awake. Void awake, and just camera equals camera main.transform. That should make it stop yelling at us. That should shut it up. What? It was just, oh, sorry. There we go, one equal sign. It was mad at us because you can't set that when you're declaring it. You have to set it in an actual, down in your code body. So that's what we did. Now, can I clear this? Yes, and it's gone. Great.
One more time, the last part of the.
Where do you have red, underlined red or something? Capital C on colliding, maybe? Yep. Don't forget your semicolon. There you go. All right. So, geez Louise, I just shocked my computer. All right. So we've added this trigger script here. And now we can, in materials, set the size to the number of materials that we have in our scene that are transparent materials. We don't need to do it for the plane detection. We don't need to do it for the portal window, but we do need to have at least a size of 3 for these 3 different colored objects. So size 3, and that will now have element 0, 1, and 2, and I can drag each one of these in here. Okay? Yes? You have an error somewhere? Camera.main.transform. Why? Mine doesn't have a red line there. Let's see.
having the same problem.
Let me check. 1 second. Lowercase m. Is it lowercase camera?
No, I deleted the entire thing. I didn't really have to keep transferring.
Oh yeah, don't delete the whole thing. You still need private camera transform. Transform camera. You got that?
Yeah.
And then camera equals camera.main.transform. Or what does the underline say when you transform attached to this? That should work. I don't know what's wrong with yours. Semicolon. There, gone. Okay?
Yeah, I have a problem. What's in front doesn't exist in the file.
So you have something underlined. So then where you probably, where's was in front in your upper in your code? You probably have something misspelled.
No, I don't have it.
Or then you missed that.
I maybe erase it.
Materials or is
Where
it
is
the
it?
actual?
It's a private rule, right?
Yeah.
So I erase it probably when I move this.
Lowercase w. Lowercase w.
Are you like gonna do?
Yeah, capital F. There you go, semi. That should do it. Save. And clear your errors and see if they come back. Now you got another one. What's that one say?
I want to feel like really
Yeah,
long.
main
It's
is
like
not.
the first time I met you.
Double click on that.
What? I had hair that was down to
You
here.
had really long hair when I first met you.
I thought it was just like here or something.
I'm pretty sure it's quite long.
Interesting. I don't remember that.
I don't know what that means.
And I shaved it all, most of it.
Hey, will you look at his and see what's going on? It's just one little error somewhere with this camera transform setting his camera main transform to that variable called camera. Okay, so we have this, and so when the camera crosses the plane, it will do that, but only if only if the camera has a collider, which it currently doesn't, and also is going to need, for physics to exist, it also needs a rigid body, right? So on your AR session origin, on your AR camera, add a component, rigid body. Okay, we don't want this camera to fall down with gravity, so get rid of use gravity, and we don't want it to even be bumped around by other objects, so check is kinematic, right? So it'll still move based on the AR, tracking, but this way physics objects can't move it. Add a rigid body, uncheck use gravity, and check is kinematic. Yeah, and add a component to your AR camera. Okay, now we also need to add a component box collider.
If you didn't,
Nothing would happen.
is kinematic,
Oh, wait, what?
if you didn't click is kinematic, would it just kind of like float?
It would still be subject to physics forces.
Right.
So if you had a wind, it would float with the wind.
And so if you, as the
If
person
a physics object bumped into it, it would move the camera.
That's cool.
It would be cool, but it would totally break the illusion of it being AR, right? It needs to move with your phone only and not somewhere else. Otherwise, it's just going to look like your tracked objects aren't tracked. It's going to look like they're floating to the side. The image of the background isn't going to move.
Oh, okay. So
Right.
it won't look like something has like taken your phone and is moving.
No, because there's no way for your camera to exist in any other place than it really exists, right?
I guess that makes sense.
All right, so now we need to, on this box collider, check this is trigger. And that will activate those is trigger functions in that script, right? Okay, now so make sure you have a rigid body that you turn off use gravity and turn off is kinematic. You've added this as a component to your AR camera object. And then add a box collider. Now what we need is a box collider that kind of extends out in front of the camera a little bit. And it really doesn't need to be a big box. It can be more like a stick. So it's like a little probe in front of the camera that says, oh, I hit something, right? So let's change this X size to 0.1 and the Y size to 0.1. And you can leave the Z size as 1. Okay. For now, let's go ahead and move your AR camera's position. This will automatically get overridden by the tracking driver. But if you click on your AR camera and you move it back and you move it up, you'll see your objects. Yeah? And look at that. My shadows are working again. And I don't know why they didn't used to work. But see, I have shadows cast on those things.
Jackson, do you know how to make your camera preview bigger? I think it's very small.
Drag. How you can make this bigger?
Yeah.
Well, here's one way. Instead of relying on the camera preview, rely on the game window. So drag your game window over so that it's its own window next to the scene view. And then change where it says free aspect to like iPhone portrait, 1080p portrait. And now you'll see what you would see on your iPhone when you're holding it in portrait. Okay? So what would be nice, and what I probably should have been doing this entire time, and next time I teach this class I'll definitely do, is we can kind of simulate the motion of this by adding a little script to the camera to manually move it around. And that will basically do the same thing as what will happen when you're physically moving your camera around. And we could write it from scratch, but we're running out of time, and there's a really easy pre-asset store thing that Charlotte won't be able to download, but everybody else will, to do this. So if you go to the asset store,
Let's stay airdrop, dude. Thank you.
and search for camera controller. up here next to you, next to your scene, there's a tab called Asset Store. And look, this one that's called Camera Operate. It's free. Click on that. And click on Download, and then click on Import.
What does this do?
It controls your camera the same way while you're in play mode, the same way you can do in the editor.
Oh. Can't you do that in the scene mode?
No, not when you're in play mode.
But you mean in the game window?
In the game window, yeah. I mean, try it. You'll see what I'm talking about. Go, you know, hit play. So go ahead and import that. We're not going to do anything with it quite yet, but go ahead and, so I'm go back into the scene. So yeah, we could manually move this around with our scene window, but we can't use our mouse to move it around by scrolling and stuff. That's what this thing does, right? Which, you know, yeah, we could easily test it by this, but what takes forever is to rotate the camera around, which is why I wanted to do it. Because it's a pain in the butt to open the rotate tool and rotate the camera around one little step at a time, right? So
So do we do anything after we?
once you have that, you should have this H4 camera operate. If you go into that and you go into assets, scripts, there's a camera operate script in there. You can actually, it'd probably be easiest just to drag this into your scripts folder, and then you can delete that whole directory structure. We don't need it. It's a bunch of garbage. All we need is that script.
And just put that on the AR
And then
camera.
put it on the AR camera. You got it. Now you can, in your play mode, you can use your up and down. You can do two-finger drag up and down to move forward and backwards. And you notice how when in my scene view, when I go through the plane, all of a sudden those objects swap over. At least it should.
Did you add this script to the quad aspect, you said?
Yeah, yeah. You add it to that quad.
Wait, sorry.
I guess it doesn't really matter.
Wait, you don't add it to the AR camera.
No. You add. He was asking about it different. You add camera operate to your AR camera. On your quad, in your portal prefab, you've added the portal trigger, and you've set the size to 3 on the materials. If you just see a materials closed like this, make sure you open it and make sure your size says 3, and then you drag in your 3 different cube textures. Okay. So then you can do two-finger swipe up and down to move it forward and backward. Do two-finger click and drag to rotate the camera around.
Oh.
So once I go through, now I'm in the AR world and I can turn around and look at the real world, although there's nothing there, so you can't really tell that much what's happening. All right, let me take a look and see what's going on with you. Do you got that script?
Sorry, yes, I have the script.
Okay. And what's happening?
So I'm just zooming in on the side. I'm not like, there's no
No, you have to go into play mode.
Oh,
Right.
okay, that was stupid. Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Now if you,
Oh, it's still not working.
well here. Let's look at your scene and your game view at the same time.
Yeah, I was doing that, but it
Now-
still wasn't working.
And you go through, see how they, no, they aren't working. Yeah, you have something wrong. That's that, that's right. What is your portal? Oh, your portal trigger is turned off. The script is turned off. Wait, why is it going off?
Yeah, what? No, it's on. Yeah.
Try turning it on right now. All right, now try it. Move the camera. Just swipe up. No, it still isn't working. don't know. You probably have an error in your script somewhere, but I don't know why your script is turned off. Make sure you're out of play mode and that you set your script to be turned on.
It is turned on, yeah. I'll look back at my console and see if there's anything bad.
I got a bug somewhere in line. It's not switching the shaders.
Oh, yeah. There's a productivity thing.
Okay. So what time is it? We are at 3:16, which is enough time for me to open up my other project and export the world that I was working on as a package, and you guys can import that package so we don't have to spend 20, 30 minutes just building a world, which would take forever.
No, it still said it doesn't see a camera equals camera.name. No, I have no red lines.
Then you got an issue. Let's see, where is that?
Yeah, I thought that was.
Do you have your AR camera set to main camera? Tagged as main camera. Yeah. Yeah, make sure your AR camera is tagged as main camera. If you don't have that, then it won't be able to pick up the transform.
And the script should be in the quad, right?
Yes, the script should be on the quad.
Something is wrong.
All right, we'll take a look at it while I'm doing this. So I'm going to open up my prep project. It's not that sci-fi thing. I did a different one because that one was too involved. So, and I was afraid it wouldn't run very well on a phone. So I created this thing. So let me see. Let's create a package here. Component and export package. And I want to export all of that and all of that. Don't need to export these. Oh boy. Okay, I'll do that. I'll export that. We'll export all these and the textures and the sky material. We don't need this placement indicator. I'm not using that. We don't need the portal. And we don't need that script. We don't need that. We don't need that. Don't need that. We don't need that. Let's see. Portal windows, skybox renderer. Okay, well, I'll export this shader. We have everything else. And we don't need this render texture because I decided not to do that, but I will export this picture. Okay, that should do it. And we'll call this Portal World.
Ooh.
So yours still doesn't work?
I probably have a.
All right, we're on week 11. And oh, I need to put this in a drive. Yes, it's me. It's always me. Who else would want to get into my drive? Oh my gosh, yes, I have the same number.
You have all the materials. So
Let's create a folder.
I think just some because it's work, not because
you said it's a
yeah, I think because cameras too close.
Oh, you probably the same.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you make this good?
This is so weird. It seems like when you open the portal, everything just disappears.
Then it's not it's not triggering, it's not changing that state then. Why don't you try just sending her your script, Kat? Yours is working, right?
Yeah.
Because you just have a typo somewhere. So share this.
Can you add the script to the Google Doc or the website?
Yeah, in a minute. Anyone with the link? Save. Done. And now let me drag this in there. And I will get this script. Not that script, but this script. Show review and finder. Okay, there's that, and now just let me add this to the website. Copy link and come on, website. How come you aren't letting me edit? Where's my edit? Week 11. There's my edit. All right, and publish. All right, connect to week 11 and download those two things. If your script works, you don't need the script. You can grab the script if your script doesn't work.
Probably,
Just grab mine.
actually, it's probably because it threw out my materials.
Oh yeah, then make sure you repopulate your materials. All right, so I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna download this. Well, I don't need to download it. I already have it. So then we're gonna import that package. So you go to Assets, Import Package, Custom Package, and you grab it from wherever you saved it, which I believe I put mine in Downloads. Yours is probably in Downloads also. Portal World. And just say you want to import everything. Did you grab the script?
I'm still just
No, it's working.
That's working.
So you see how you go, or swap.
See?
the-
Oh, now, okay. I mean, I still can't use the arrow key or anything. Weren't we supposed to know?
So yours is just swapped. If you go out of play, it should go back to the way it's supposed to be. And now hit play and scroll in on it really slowly. See how they swap over?
Right, yeah, okay. Cool.
It's working.
Okay.
Wait a second. Open scenes have been modified. Oh gosh. Do you want to reload this? Hit I shouldn't have put that scene as part of this. And what happened?
Oh no! Oh no!
Oh no, darn it. What just happened now? Everything got messed up. Oh great. Shit. All right, wait a second. Here is portal. What just happened? Darn it. All right, so are your scripts are all still there, right? Yeah, so what just happened? We still have our quad, that still has that. What do we have to fix? Sorry guys, I didn't think this was gonna happen. How do I fix this? It feels like the quad has lost a texture or something, right? Materials, portal window. Now that's where this is all messed up. Okay, so here we go. Internal shader error. Let's go back and change this to custom portal window. Yeah, and now quad. Let's go ahead and set that back to, there we go. Okay.
What you just did, sorry.
I went back to, I found my, go into my materials and change your shader to custom, back to custom portal window. And those are probably my boxes and not yours, right? Does yours look just like this now? And they aren't the same? I don't know.
No, mine are still made.
Okay, yours are still yours? All right, great. Materials, shader, custom, portal window. To reload that shader on there. It tried to load a bad shader or something. I should have taken something out of that package that I didn't take out. And so it was loading things that it shouldn't have loaded. What? Okay. Now, what's going on? The camera, I believe, is not working right. Did we lose its?
Should I not download this package or should I?
Probably. I don't know. I don't know. Let me fix it first before you start down. Before you try download. Oh, I'm not. That's right. I need to hit play. So, what happened? See, yeah, I totally broke it. You can download it, but don't use it yet. Don't import it yet, because it just broke everything. So that's great. Yours is fine? Well, I'm glad. Okay, here we go. There we go. Okay, yeah, it's working again. Great. Okay, so yeah, you can, let's see, what should I redo it? No. Just import the package and then just do the fix that we just did. When it asks you the thing, say cancel. Okay? What time is it? It's 28 after. All right. So now, what's wrong, Shar?
No, it's fine. I'm saying it just keeps stopping. It's fine. Don't worry.
It's not that big, is it? I don't think it's that big. I think it's like, yeah. When it prompts you with an error about the scene, say cancel. Okay. All right. Yeah, I should have not included the scene. That's what messed everything up. Okay, so I have that, and I just want to check that my script is still scripting. Let's see. So it's attached to the quad, and yeah, it should still have element 1, 2, and 3 here. Okay. Oh, I hate when this happens. There we go. Well, it's, I know this happens sometimes. Yeah, it's like all of a sudden it changes to Aramaic. And
can't read Aramaic.
it's like a draw update problem in the editor. All right, so what we want to do is we're going to add something from this prefabs called Park, and this has a problem too. Let's double click on Park and see what's wrong with here. I think it's just this sphere, this sky sphere is upset, and it is upset. Let's see here. Let's just turn it off for a second. Nope, everything is upset. Darn it. Why?
Damn it, it still did everything.
Oh no, it's fine. You're supposed to.
Now you have to go and reload that one shader to fix it. It just made things pink, one thing pink, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what everybody had.
Go relearn the shader. Sorry.
So go into the materials, the materials, and go to portal window, and then change that back to custom portal window.
Oh, okay.
And now drag that material back onto your quad. fixes it. Yeah. Okay, is there a quick way to fix this? I don't know. Let me find out. Let me try this. So this is unexpected. This is again because I didn't have enough time to prep. What's going on? I feel like this internal error shader. Okay. Ooh. There's only one material. Okay, I think I know what's up with this. So in your shaders, so in your material, in your park directory, in your materials, there are two materials. You need to reload the shaders into those, the same way we reloaded the shader into the window. So in your Illumine, go where it says hidden internal error shader, go to custom. You should have standard stencil filter and also park material. Go to custom standard stencil filter as well. Okay, and now on Sky Sphere, there's a custom shader in here that should have been downloaded called Skybox Renderer. Let's try that. So on your Sky Sphere, I turned mine off temporarily. I'm going to turn it back on, and I'm going to go into my material. It's a material problem. And in my main materials now, there's a thing called Skybox, I think, with this here. No, that seems to be right. Why? All right, let's just try reloading this material on here then. So drag Skybox onto your Sky Sphere. It doesn't let you. Why? Element 0. What? Oh, right here. Okay, so under textures. Materials. Oh, I dragged that to. Okay, let's try it. It's to element 0. Okay, there we go. And now turn it back on. Oh, it's just currently set to invisible, but I should see it right now, and I don't through the window. Right? Mine's not getting. Oh, but it's not in the scene yet. That's why. It's in the prefab and it's currently invisible, just like everything in the prefab is currently invisible. Okay, so we need to add this park to our portal prefab. So open in your prefabs directory your portal. Yes, now it looks right. See, the park should have like a sky sphere around it. I created my own. You can't really use the skybox, the procedural skybox. There's a lot of problems with making that work with AR because it wants to put the texture around it. So instead I just grabbed a spherical image and put it on a sphere and put that in the scene and put the same sort of shader on there so that it disappears or becomes visible. So now we want to add this park to our portal. So open up your portal prefab. Why does my portal prefab look all weird? Let's fix that again. Oh, you know what it is? Is that this probably came with the thing. I don't think we created a. Did we create a prefab? I don't remember. We did. All right. So in your prefab, you're going to have to fix this texture issue, I guess. So the quad has missing material, needs to be the portal window material. So go back into materials and drag your portal window onto element 0 missing material. There we go. That fixes that. Go ahead and save. And now that we have that fixed, we can drag the park prefab, which is right here, into this prefab as an element. And now those spheres, those boxes are still there, but there's another whole thing there.
I'm just, sorry, you just drag it right into the portal prefab.
Yeah, so I have the portal prefab open, and now this park becomes a child object of the portal prefab. It's a prefab inside a prefab, which is common. Like, if you open up this park prefab, you see it's composed of all types of other prefabs. What?
Oh wait, maybe it's fine. Yeah.
So now, if I go back into my standard scene, there we go, it is working. You see,
That's supposed to be something on the outside of mine. Like that's like there's the park is like surrounding it and inside of it. I think I just missed it.
so then if I hit play, although I'm not seeing my sky here. Oh, wait, what's going on with that? It's disappearing.
Oh, that's basically what's happening with me, but it's the cubes.
All right, hold on. Maybe
Oh, it doesn't know to change the materials.
that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you. We didn't add those materials to that material script. That's what's going on. All right, so in your quad on your portal, you have your element 0, 1, and 2 for those cubes. You'll need to add at least one more, or you can get rid of the cubes at this point. Let's just get rid of the cubes first of all. We don't need them anymore. So in your portal prefab, go back into your portal prefab. So in the prefab view, otherwise it'll just come back. In your prefab view, you have this portal, and it has these 3 cubes. If you don't want to delete them, you can just turn them off. Or you could delete them. Okay? Now that'll save that. Then go back into your scene view, and on the, oh, I'm sorry, nope, sorry. Go back into your portal again, prefab. Go into your quad now and change the portal window. No, where's that script?
This whole time.
Wasn't it just there a second ago?
What?
The script.
I feel like maybe it's only in the scene.
Maybe it is only in the scene. Let's see. On my quad, there it is, the trigger script.
Should we put it into the prefab?
It should be in the prefab. It needs to be in the prefab. So, okay, so we have that. Okay, so go back into the prefab. Yeah, let's do that. Go back into the prefab, into the portal prefab, and on the quad, add that script. I guess that was another thing I fixed. Portal trigger, add that to the quad. There we go. And change the material size, I believe, is only 2. I think there's only 2 materials in this scene. That was another reason why I chose this really simple thing, because it doesn't have very many materials. And now, under your park materials, which is in different, it's under this park directory instead of your main materials folder. Set those 2 materials, and then actually the skybox, we have to do that as well. So actually set the size to 3. And now find your skybox material and set that to the 3rd element. Okay, and now back in the main scene view, there we go. If I hit play, still don't see it. Why don't I see it? Now I see nothing. What the heck? What's going on? All right, I still don't see the skybox for some reason.
Why is the element?
Oh wait, there's something going on there. Oh, I know what it is. We need to set the draw. The skybox is out of the draw distance of this camera. See how when I go forward, it comes into view. So just change the draw distance of your AR camera. My far plane is set to 20. What's yours set to? Yeah. Set it to 200. There it goes. Okay.
Sorry.
The element that I have to put in the portal trigger are the what elements I have to put in the portal trigger?
No, portal trigger is going to be on the quad in your prefab. So make sure you're in your prefab view of portal, your portal prefab. So portal prefab on your quad here, make sure you have the portal trigger. Make sure that the size is set to 3. You got rid of your cubes, right?
Yeah.
And then set your the 3 elements need to be the park material, the illumination material, the illumin, and the skybox material. You need to drag those into there. And yeah, park material,
Right.
illumin, and skybox.
When I am seeing my prefab, is getting in. I don't know why.
And there we go. Mine's totally working now. See how when I go through, the whole scene becomes visible, and if I turn around, the door is black. That's going to be replaced by the camera texture. And when I go through, if I turn the camera around, then I'm seeing through there. And I can walk around it too and see it from the other side. I can walk around it and look back and see this dock and the boat.
Oh, okay. Wait, I think I'm confused by like.
I think yours is just triggering back incorrectly.
So have you put the,
But do you see your scene view toggling like this?
Yeah, I do. I do see that, and then but then I have this like black. I can't like move around.
Oh yeah, mine's backwards now too. There we go. That's the way it should look.
Can I show you mine?
Yeah.
I think maybe it's right. But
Your camera script probably isn't working right. Can you? You know, you can definitely walk. There we go, and it seems to be working.
Is that working?
I think so, but you're not in scene view. You're in prefab view.
Oh, okay.
Go out of play first of all. All right, there you go. Now scroll back. Now scroll forward. There you
Is
go.
that working?
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
cool.
the camera
Awesome.
script,
Great.
I think,
Then it's
that
working.
is
Okay, cool.
fucking-
Okay, so the camera still moves really, really fast and can still cause problems with the triggering. And so that probably won't be an issue because no one's going to be sprinting at full speed while using their AR. So in real life, it won't matter. But like for our purposes, we can edit this script really easily. Just open up that camera operator script. And let's just adjust this a little bit. So on the public float scroll speed here, change this range 0.5 to range 0.01 to 2. And I can't remember which one of them. Let's just set a couple of these. Let's set the mouse wheel press. Change that to also 0.01, and I think it's one of those, but where it says speed here as well. Let's see, where's that mouse? Scroll speed, move speed. Oh yeah, we did that. Okay, great. So yeah, just do those two. 0.01. We're changing the range so we can drag that slider slower than 0.5 because otherwise it'll only let us go down to 0.5. So save that and go back into, whoops, wrong project. Go back into your project and now outside of scene, make sure you're outside your prefab and you're in your scene view. On the script attached to your AR camera, the camera operate script, change the scroll speed all the way down to 0.01. That might even be too slow, but let's see. I think it's scroll speed. And now when I scroll, it's a minimum speed that's a lot slower. It's a maximum speed that's a lot slower. And this is more realistic to what a person would actually be operating this with.
We're going from the scroll speed.
Did you edit your script already? Okay, then find the script attached to your AR camera, the camera operate script,
Oh, it's just right here.
and drag the scroll speed all the way down.
2, 0.
It should go to 0.01
Okay.
is the lowest. Okay, and that should fix a lot of those trigger issues.
I don't know. I don't know if this fits all that.
Yeah.
It's still can't like go up.
You can't go up, so what you want to do to go up is double click with 2 fingers and drag toward up, and now scroll forward, and now you'll be going up, and then click with and drag with 2 fingers again to point down. So you can move in whatever way your camera is currently facing, and you can change which way your camera is facing by doing 2 fingers click and hold and drag around. Right? Okay? So it's 47 after. So if you built this, it should work. Do we have time to build it? Let's go ahead and try. Let's see what happens.
I don't know why mine is showing when I'm crossing.
Uh-huh. I'll look at it here in a minute when I'm starting to build.
I'm also not getting the shaders.
Then, I don't know. Did you try downloading my script and using that one instead?
I did.
And then make sure that you have your materials set. Well, I don't know what to tell you. All right. So we already have this set up for AR, right? Let me see. Yeah. If you see target device is 11.0, that's a good point. That's a good thing that you probably have it set up correctly. Now build. Let's see. File. Build settings. Build. iOS. Save. Replace. So your homework is going to be, you can use the scripts and stuff that we wrote today, but I want you to come up with an original experience with your own models. And it'd be cool if you added something that moved, some animation in it. If you can't figure that out, well, you should be able to figure that out by now. We've done it several times, but at least give me something with different content than what we did in class. And if you want to play around with lighting, that would be cool. If you have lighting trouble, look up a tutorial on how to bake lighting. And that will solve all your lighting issues if you have any lighting issues. It just takes like 2 hours, so make sure you give yourself some time for it to bake. I guess it depends on how complicated your scene is. If your scene has a bunch of stuff in it, it might take 2 hours. And what the heck? Oh, there it is. Okay, let's try this out. So annoying. I hate you, iTunes. I hate you so much. All right, so what's going on with yours, Camilo?
I don't know what my quad is again.
Okay, so it's reset the shader. I don't know what happened. Make sure you're doing it in your prefab. So go into the prefab view for your portal. Wait, you're using portal 1, not portal?
No, and then that is another one that I made.
Okay.
So I have to use another.
And does this have the park in it?
Yeah, this one, the photo one.
Okay, great. So now find the quad here, and the material for it, element 0, missing material, drag in your portal material, just drag it, go into your materials over here. Okay, yeah.
No, this is not material. So
Just drag your portal window in there. Yeah. And now
But I
if you
don't
go
know-
back into your scene view now. It should be fixed. There, see? There you go.
But I can go to game mode. If I
Did you change the speed?
Yeah, but it still is not. But now it's one now, right? Like when I put.
No, because you would see them popping up over here.
Hmm?
You would see them popping up over there. On the scene view.
I should,
It's so dark in here, you might not be able to get a good tracking.
That's okay. The problem, I think, is that I
I should be ready to build that.
didn't delete
Yeah,
the
you should be.
prefab.
What prefab? Oh, from the scene view. I forgot to do it too. Darn it.
It works still. You just have to place another door.
Yeah. So we forgot to put. Okay, whatever. Yeah, we forgot to take the prefab out of the scene. And how do I get it? I can't get it to actually. Yeah, mine's working kind of. We just forgot to pull the prefab out of the scene. But the prefab still named what the thing was named before, so the place drag drop script should still work the same way. And it works when you walk through it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. So here's kind of what it looks like. Mine also has the same issue. We forgot to pull it out of the screen, but I'll just put it on the screen recording really quick to show you what you should be seeing. I can't actually walk through it because I'm attached to my laptop right now. New movie recording. That's not the right device. But it'll look like this. Oh. And here, I'll do this one, which does work. So, well, maybe I should do the one that doesn't work because I can't get good tracking anyway. So yeah, this is what shouldn't be here because we forgot to pull it out of the screen. But you see the whole world, and if you walk through it, if I wasn't attached, I guess I could grab my laptop. No problem. I'm now in the world, and I can turn around and look back and see through the portal and see the classroom on the other side of the portal. There is still that little glitch, and in the tutorials, he had made that go away, and I did everything that he did, and it's still there. So I feel like that was something that probably worked in Unity 2005 or whatever he was using and doesn't work in 2019. But it's not that big of a glitch. I'll see if I can't figure out that next week, a way to fix that. As I cross the threshold, you'll see a little flash.
Yeah,
See that?
On and off.
Yeah.
Shaders.
One frame as it's like switching the shader render mode. See that?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll try to figure out a better way of doing that.
Maybe it's too much of an on and off.
I don't know.
It's
But this is basically the way it should work, right? So make sure you have something for next week that uses original content and has this functionality. And hopefully has something with some animation as well.